But in order to create a universally kind of high-end experience, we had to kind of carry over the best of Korea and the best of what international clients would want. I think there's excitement in creating something new. It's difficult, but there's also a lot of, it's rewarding to see the product get reception. Oh, cheers. All right.
Cheers. 반갑습니다.
반갑습니다.
Ooh, very smooth. I love it. Well, thanks for treating me with a welcome drink.
Okay.
Tell me who you are and what you do here and why you do this.
Okay. Well, my name is Michael An. I'm the I wear kind of a couple hats, but one job I have is the executive vice president of Rakkojae Hanok Collection. And we own and operate a collection of hanoks, or Korean traditional houses, which we've repurposed into either hotels or culture spaces, museums, etc. And on the other side, I also have recently launched a gin. So my gin company, I'm the CEO of House of Heritage Distillery, and we launched a product called Kori gin in March of this year.
Nice. And, you know, I was at the launch event last week here, and it's just a beautiful place and nice drinks, and it was just perfect. So what's so unique about Kori?
Well, it's not. No, I'm kidding. But I guess the ethos behind creating Kori was that we wanted to create a link between the East and the West. And, you know, the word Kori in one of the many definitions is link in Korean. So we want to create a drink or an alcohol that really highlights a lot of ingredients that can only be found in Korea. So with this particular product, we used 10 botanicals that are native to the Korean Peninsula, and we've created a very bold contemporary gin that tries to highlight each and every one of those flavors.
How long did it take you to find the right ingredients?
Well, if you consider all the time just thinking in my head what will work, maybe 5 years. But
5 years?
Yes.
Wow.
But actually getting the still out and trialing recipes and testing things out, maybe 2 years of kind of trial and error.
Okay.
I don't really think there's a right or wrong answer. But after 2 years, I was pretty much thinking, okay, this has got to be it, or probably not going to be a product. Yeah.
But, okay, hotels and gin, you know, they are somewhat, there's a common ground between them, like experience. But what made you come up with the gin brand idea?
I was traveling through Australia in 2018, and I visited Melbourne, and north of Melbourne is wine country called Yarra Valley, and there was this distillery called Four Pillars that's, I guess, one of the most famous Australian distilleries. And they've done a great job with creating their gins with uniquely Australian ingredients. And I thought that concept was fantastic. Their space was amazing. I admired everything about that brand. And, you know, it's that moment I thought, okay, why don't we have anything like this in Korea? We have some great botanicals there. We can create spaces out of hanok, which is I already do as my job. It'd be great to kind of apply that and do something that's never been done here. So 2018 was when I thought that, and then I came back to my day job, which made things difficult. And you know, it just was kind of a hobby. So I was distilling at home, trying recipes for a good 2 years, and then in 2020, and you know, Rakkojae, our brand, is about 95% international guests, and that made business very difficult. So I figured it was a time to kind of pivot and try something that I've been wanting to do for so many years. And that's when I decided to launch, or started brainstorming on what to call the company, you know, what to call the drink, what kind of ingredients should we kind of fix the recipe on, and started building kind of everything that, building the entire story and building the entire look and feel of our product.
You know, you got amazing story behind your brand and the meaning of House of Heritage and Kori, for example, and the logo, the hidden meaning behind it. When you flip it around, it's actually a resemblance of the Chinese character happiness.
Yes, double happiness.
Double happiness.
Yeah.
So how did you come up with this? Like you said, you have no marketing team.
No.
But who is this guy that you're hiding behind you?
Well, it's pretty much just me. But I mean, I have a wonderful support system. A lot of I guess designers and marketers that I work with just as a favor. My family and our team at Rakkojae has been immensely helpful. But we called our brand House of Heritage as a play on Rakkojae, which literally means a house to enjoy the ancient. So we wanted to kind of carry over that DNA somehow into our new company. And since Rakkojae has the word house there, and it can mean kind of like a fashion house, or it can mean a house that makes something, we've decided to carry the house over and make a play on the word and say that this is kind of an extension of that heritage. So we created the company House of Heritage. The logo, as you mentioned, I was toying around with a bunch of logo ideas one day and just looking at kind of Chinese characters and see how you can work with it. And I found the double happiness sign. When you turn it 90 degrees to the left, it kind of looks like an H of H.
So it just came to you after you named it.
I'd be lying if I was smart enough to have that come instantly. It was weeks and months of just kind of looking through logos and kind of brainstorming. But I knew that when I saw that this was it, and I sent it to my designer and said, "Hey, I have this great idea. Can you kind of play around with this Chinese symbol and make it look like a stamp that says H of H?" And the rest is history.
So, I'm a strong believer that people don't follow brands because they look fancy or they got cool logos or things like that. It's more about the values that the brand has, right? And as you can see from your company name, the word heritage is a key word. But you gotta evolve, you gotta stay relevant. And how do you keep the fine line between those two areas?
I think I'm going to kind of rewind and talk a little bit about, I guess, our parent company, Rakkojae. But we were actually the first company in Korea to take traditional Korean architecture, or Hanok, and turn it into a kind of high-end accommodation product. Because in the Joseon Dynasty, or through Korean history, this concept of a luxury hotel or a high-end hotel didn't exist. It wasn't like Japan that had generations of ryokan.
Right.
In Korea, you either were an aristocrat who went from your home, and when you're traveling, you just go to another aristocrat's house and say, "I'm here, open the door for me." And you kind of, it was kind of
사랑방.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was kind of reciprocal. Or you had the kind of merchants or the common class that would stay in taverns, where you have a meal, have a drink, and kind of sleep just by your table. So neither of that would be very, I guess, relevant for hospitality today. So we, created this concept called our Hanok Stay, or our Hanok Hotel, and we had to modify a lot of aspects of the, I guess, building to make it friendly for foreign travelers. For example, the biggest problem was the bathroom. Normally, we had the bathrooms in an outhouse, which makes things very difficult if you're coming from the West and you're coming to stay at, already you're sitting on the floor, and then you're asking me to go to the bathroom outside. So the first step was to bring the bathroom inside the house, and that would kind of change a lot of the structure of the building itself. But what we tried to do is maintain the, I guess, aesthetics in the most traditional way that we can. So the bathroom is hidden away behind a door. Your closets are hidden away. Our mini bar, our coffee machine, it's all there. All the amenities you'll find in a 5-star hotel, you'll have in our properties. But the point is that when you walk in, it's as traditional as it can be, and then you're going to start discovering all these kind of hidden conveniences.
And how did you apply that experience to Kori?
Well, I think for a product, it was a little bit different. We thought about what makes Rakkojae unique. Why is it, I guess, different from a lot of the other hospitality experiences in Korea? And we talked about universality, where we can't change our experience for international customers and Korean customers, which sometimes they want very different things. But in order to create a universally kind of high-end experience, a universally accepted experience, we had to kind of carry over the best of Korea and the best of what international clients would want to create a product. That's kind of where Kori is. We tried to create a product that is universally recognizable as gin. When a customer looks at the bottle, whether they're British or whether they're Korean, you're going to see, oh, okay, this is gin. It's not soju, for example. But we wanted this to kind of have that Korean look and feel, whereas where a British consumer would look at it and say, wow, this feels very Korean. It kind of looks like gin, but it doesn't feel British at all. Whereas we'd have a Korean customer that looks at it and say, okay, I can see where we're getting the Korean aspects, but wow, this looks very high end, and it looks like it could have been made in London, for example. And it's kind of that fine balance that we were trying to strike when we designed the product.
It must be very difficult trying to satisfy both worlds. I remember you saying you first had a cloth over the bottle entrance, and some Koreans complained that it kind of looks like a funeral drink.
Right.
So you had to get rid of it.
It looked like a funeral garb, because in Korean traditional funerals, I guess you wear a hemp kind of hat and your hemp clothes, and we had a hemp, I guess, wrapper with it was a handmade straw, I guess, string, which it took a lot of effort to find the people to make it and produce the quantities, but we don't want to be, the decision was made to drop that entire design aspect because we don't want to be associated with something that may not make people happy. It just goes to say our logo is, I guess, a modification of double happiness, and that connotation just didn't work for us. So we had to really drop that side of the product.
But that's one of the advantages for being a startup, right? I mean, it is starting up just now, so you're flexible, you're able to make decisions and pivot really quickly. But talking more about the Koreanness, Korea is known for many things like K-pop, BTS more recently, and Korean dramas, cinematography, but gin is not actually one of them. And what's your aspiration here? Like, what are you looking for?
Well, BTS is not really Korean traditional music. The way I see it, it's a gateway into Korean culture. When we have a young lady based out of the United States who suddenly finds this great boy band BTS, and she discovers that they're Korean, that will naturally stir up some kind of curiosity within. And where is this country, Korea? What is it about? I'd like to travel there one day. What is kind of different from the States? It'll start creating these types of kind of fundamental curiosities on where BTS is from. I felt that Korea has a great spectrum of traditional alcohol, traditional drinks, but it's very difficult for the uninitiated to really understand and know how to drink Korean traditional alcohol or liquors or wine, for example. But honestly, it's very easy for gin. Gin tonic, gin soda, gimlet, martini. Generally 90 some odd % of the world will know how to consume gin. So the point was to kind of be that bridge for people that are kind of encountering Korean alcohol for the first time. Highlight the Korean flavors, make sure that we don't lose that Korean aspect in the product itself, but make it easier, make that discovery experience easier is the whole ethos behind what we're trying to do here.
People are appreciating more on about the craftsmanship and the scarcity and being unique. They have huge appreciation for these brands and experiences, and hence the craft gin or craft alcohol beverages in general, they're on the rise. What kind of opportunity do you see from this?
I personally think the opportunity is huge. I better. But we saw, I guess in 2017-18, craft beer first take off in Korea. And that kind of translated to craft makgeolli, which is still very, very popular right now. We're seeing that transition to craft soju now, especially with Park Jae-bom and his projects. We see much more going on in that space. But as a business person, I think that it's always important to be at least 2 or 3 steps ahead. So, I probably wouldn't be doing too well if I got into craft beer, craft makgeolli. Craft soju also has, honestly, already a lot of players in that space.
Really?
Yes, there's plenty of craft soju distilleries, just never heard of them.
Oh,
They're usually
okay.
very small and kind of mom and pop oriented. But you can count the number of craft gin distillers on one hand in Korea. And to have, there's some big ones as well, but I don't think anybody's really approaching the segment as we are, trying to kind of not simply just make a gin or a gin with Korean ingredients, but kind of tie that back into something that's more, I guess, rooted in Korean history or the storytelling or the packaging. And that's something that we really feel that we've done well with this particular product.
Do you think this craft alcohol trend is a trend, just a phase, or what kind of future do you see in this?
I mean, we see fundamental shifts in the way that alcohol is consumed in Korea. Generally, 10 years ago, if you weren't making the green bottles of soju or the brown bottles of beer, you're pretty much not making any money. One of the kind of now larger distilled soju makers, I will refrain from mentioning their brand name, but they've for the first time in 10 years turned a profit, I think 2 years ago, which was a huge shift for this particular kind of craft industry, especially with distilled liquors or soju. Rather than having the more, I guess, cookie cutter nights out with work colleagues or friends where you just get inebriated with soju, you see people drinking at home. And when you're at home, you're more able to cater to your own self-interests. And that's really, I guess, widened what consumers are looking for. The wine market has grown significantly. We see growth in, as I mentioned, the craft beer and makgeolli industry. And definitely it's small, but we see a lot of potential in craft spirits as well. And it's pretty much already blown up everywhere else in the world. Korea is just a lot of reasons, whether it be kind of social, I guess, the social environment or I guess laws surrounding distilled liquors here. It's slow, but I think we're there, I guess, a half step ahead of the craft alcohol game, and hopefully we'll be able to kind of ride that wave.
Yeah, I mean, from the lifestyle aspect, I think it's also a sign that the drinking culture here is changing. Do you see any of the hints there?
Statistics still show a huge amount of
We're
soju being
so
consumed.
notorious.
Yes, if there are statistics that say Koreans drink more than Russians, I think that's. Oh, you haven't
No
seen that
kidding.
statistic? Yeah, Koreans drink more on a per capita volume basis than Russians.
Proud.
Cheers. But it goes to show that the market size is significant. If we're going to be able to, kind of capture a pie of that market and have that be for craft gin or, I guess, our future portfolio of products, there is much potential there.
And where are you currently selling Kori right now?
Focus primarily on luxury hotels, Michelin restaurants, Asia's top 50 bars. We haven't really opened up to, I guess, high-end bottle shops or B2C channels because we do believe with our current production capacity, it's important to, I guess, make a statement as a branding exercise, what have you. Even if that would kind of delay our growth, to be able to do it right, since we only have one shot of doing the launch. So at the moment, you'll find us at the Four Seasons. You'll find us at the Conrad. There's a wonderful Michelin restaurant called Evet in Gangnam that you can find us on their Korean cocktail list.
Those are some big names.
Yes.
How did you make it happen?
Well, I'm a hotelier for once, so those types of connections or getting my foot in the door with the right people definitely helps. But I also think it's a testament to the quality and the design because me knowing who to talk to is only kind of the first step in a long discussion. Being to show them the passion that was made, or I guess put into the project, or the attention to detail, or the kind of thought behind the recipe and the years of effort that created it. And of course, it has to taste good. But I don't know if there's any secret sauce. It's just kind of I guess, amalgamation of all that effort.
Do you think you would have started differently if you didn't have that experience in hotels? How would you have approached it?
When I was learning to distill or learning about the Korean alcohol industry, someone, I don't remember who it was, but there was a lecture saying, if you don't have a clear sales route, just don't do it.
Really?
Yes. It's a very, very difficult industry. I don't know about gin in particular, but even craft alcohol, craft beer, makgeolli, soju, it's already a red ocean. There's hundreds of players, if not thousands of players already. And being able to, I guess, get your product where it needs to be, if you don't have the ability to do that, then I think for those of you who are watching, you should rethink this particular industry.
So don't be my competitor.
Did it show?
Who's your competitor right now?
There are, well, I don't even know if they look at me as competitors, but there are larger players. For example, Toki Soju, they have their line of Sambi gin and vodka. Definitely one of the larger players out there. There's also a distillery called Three Societies. They're working on Korea's first, or they've already released Korea's first single malt whiskey. And they also have a line of gin there as well. And there's also a brand called Buja Gin, who takes...
They're one of the first, right?
They are the first, actually.
Yeah.
They started in 2019, I believe, but that's when I was
thinking about
the product, and I was like, oh man, I missed it. I can't be first. It was a disappointment, but it's also a great product. There's a lot of good philosophy behind the brand. It's tough to say competitors because how can you be competing when we're such a small part of the market? I think collectively we're just growing, I guess, the size.
You're expanding the pie.
Exactly. We're growing the size of the craft distill market. We also hear news that some of the larger players like Lotte and Shinsegae will be jumping into single malt whiskey soon. So they're setting up operations in Jeju Island. So again, you have these conglomerates jumping in. You know that there's something there. I thank God that they haven't decided on making gin yet. But there always will be a craft aspect that no amount of capital can change, I think. And I think that's what will kind of keep us different from a lot of the other players.
When I was preparing for the interview, I was just imagining in my head what your day-to-day job work is like working for Kori. You have wear many hats, but particularly for this brand, how would you go into these sales meetings? Like, would it be just keep drinking, and building a relationship? A lot of tasting with great food. And at one point, I have to admit, I was kind of jealous, but how does that happen?
It's actually not as glamorous as people would imagine it. You literally, email people or you schedule a meeting. I walk in with a bottle of Kori and I literally sit here and tell them about the story like I am with you. Hopefully that drums up a lot of interest. Then we do a tasting, and of course I'll go through the ingredients that we use, why we selected those ingredients, how each particular ingredient will impact the kind of flavor profile of the gin. And we'll move on to, I guess, ideas on cocktails or how this can kind of work very nicely with the particular hotel or restaurant that I'm speaking to.
Did you always know that you will have your own brand? I mean, you have your own family business, but is this something that you wanted to do at the end?
I think entrepreneurship is something that I've always wanted to do. Before joining Rakkojae, I was involved in a number of startups who, since I'm here, they didn't turn out that well. But, but it's. I think there's excitement in creating something new, and it's difficult, but there's also a lot of. It's rewarding to see the product get reception and to see that kind of the sales figures go up, and to see the hotels, restaurants, and bars that are taking our product and kind of making it one of their signature items.
Did you ever cry behind the doors watching people drink Kori?
Cry behind the door? I don't know about when they drink Kori, but more like when I see my sales figures not move up. And I'm happy when I see them move up. So I think it's I think every CEO will have similar feelings with me on that one.
House of Heritage is a startup, and you said you've been preparing for 5 years, but it's only been like 2 years that
So
you
we
actually,
incorporated 2 years ago, yes.
yeah, and it just launched.
Yes.
Do you have any learnings that you want to share? Other than don't get into this business.
Well, I didn't say don't get into the business. I said don't get into the business if you don't have sales channels. But I think you need to find good support. That can come in the form of consultants. It can come in the form of family, friends, colleagues. But it really is important to have support because I don't think anybody can do it on their own. I was fortunate enough to find people that really understood, I guess, the process of getting a license to distill, for example, which probably took the most time. And the process of incorporating the particular type of company that would allow me to, I guess, ship this online or sell online and ship by a post, which is also a huge amount of, I guess, red tape behind that particular law. So I guess navigating, understanding the laws and finding your position on where you're going to, or how you're going to incorporate, and how you're going to, I guess, sell your product, whether that be to B2B or B2C. And getting through the necessary paperwork and the procedures to get your company there, I think is very important. And finding the right people to help you there is going to help.
From getting the inspiration from Australia and to launching your own brand, would you say that was the biggest hurdle? Navigating through the regulations and the laws?
Honestly, I think that up to this point, it was the most straightforward. I think from this point onwards, it's the challenging part.
What do you think is the most challenging part from now
Everything. Now it's so uncertain. If we want to compare this to a ship, launching the product was building the ship and getting out of the port. But now we have to figure out how to navigate the seas and go from point A to point B, and that honestly scares me a little bit. Fortunately, I have a lot of support. We've taken up a lot of interest amongst investors, so hopefully I won't be doing this by myself for very much longer. And then finding, I guess, the right people to help get this product to the next level, finding the right people to, I guess, execute upon the vision of our next, I guess, few product lines will be the most important. I think finding people and managing people is probably one of the most difficult aspects of any business. And that particular, I guess, aspect is what worries me yet excites me the most for the next, I guess, 6 months to a year.
You need to understand what the market wants. And every entrepreneur has their own way of understanding the market and what people why people find your brand attractive. What's your way of learning that, or kind of understanding what people want from you?
I think you have to, it's a multi-channel strategy. These days, Instagram makes it a lot easier. So just being in touch with social media, I'm personally replying to every single message or comment that people leave on our page. I'm personally responding to every single one. That probably is one of the most, I guess, important channels at the moment. Also listening to our B2B partners, so the bars, restaurants, hotels, the bartenders, they're the ones that are recommending the product and getting that kind of candid first-hand feedback, and to understand, what works, what doesn't work, what cocktails work, what people like, don't like. That kind of helps us in, I guess, further expansion efforts. So, we will talk about, we had this experience at this hotel, and we recommending this product in such and such way, and having that experience, kind of collecting that experience and having that knowledge to be able to go out and give additional, I guess, feedback to our partners will definitely keep us more in touch with the market.
Well, before you came here, I asked you to prepare one truth that you've never shared anywhere before. What's one naked truth that you can share here today?
I think it's maybe it's kind of like a swan. You want to have this perception of, everything's okay. We're doing very well. We're so calm and collected above water. but literally, underwater, we're just kicking and, trying to stay afloat. For example, myself, I'm literally involved in every single process, from weighing the ingredients and putting them into the still, to distilling and making the cuts, bottling, putting the label on each bottle, the design, ordering labels, designing the packaging. Sometimes I'm driving over to the factory to pick up more if I need something that if I have a really urgent order. So it's a sweatshop.
Yeah.
And I'm the kind of sweatshop labor.
That's what you meant when you said you wear many hats.
I think
You're a driver.
Yes, I think I wear every single hat at the moment. But it's exciting, and I think it helps me, I guess, keep my finger on the pulse. And as the company grows, I do want to try to maintain that, I guess, hands-on approach, just to make sure that I know everything that's going on. And I guess in being able to do so, it'll keep me agile, help me pivot when I need to pivot quickly. And I think these types of thoughts apply to any industry.
I think that's, well, you're doing a great job in making it seamless. No one can tell whether like you're the only man behind this, but I'm sure there are a lot of support systems that help you to expand and scale. Yeah, but thank you for talking to me today
Thank you
and
so much
being
for your
here.
time.
Yeah, I hope we could see Kori in Hong Kong and elsewhere around the world soon.
I think you will very soon. Thank you.